mono green and have not found much success. Very hard one to beat.
It's not good. It's not good. That's what I would say.
It's just not good. You can't kill it, and you can't play any creatures, and your deck's kind of all creatures, so, that's pretty much that.
Yeah, it's a very difficult card for the mono green deck to kill. In my build of mono green, I have 4 main deck copies of Ram Through, and then 3 copies previously of Prey Upon, and now 3 copies of Primal Might, just because it is so important to be able to kill that thing, to be sure. But you know what? If it doesn't show up, your Jund Sacrifice matchup is generally pretty okay because your creatures are so big that you can do things like outpacing Mayhem Devils. So we're going to see a game here in which Yuki Ichikawa does not have a copy of Priest of Forgotten Gods. Corey with a little bit of a slow start here. Is there a Solemn Simulacrum? Corey not getting off the ground running. His hand is very reactive there, partner. And normally a Solemn Simulacrum wouldn't cause a problem, but it actually looks pretty good this game.
Yeah, I mean, there is an argument for having kind of a distribution of early game and late game, so you curve out and then can hang around the late game. But sometimes you get hands that are, a 1-drop, 2 pump spells that don't do anything, and 4 drops. And it's hard to do very much with that.
Well, we're gonna see
there we go.
Card. Yeah, well, here comes Questing Beast. Not a great matchup for the Great Henge. So here comes the Questing Beast in for 4. Pelt Collector's a 2/2, but it has no interest in attacking into a Scavenging Ooze that can trade with it, or more ideally, a Solemn Simulacrum that is happy to trade with it and draw Yuki a card. So for now, it is the big dragon. Corvold's going to sacrifice Solemn Simulacrum. That's pretty adorable. It's going to turn into a 5/5 and draw not 1, but 2 cards, will the big dragon. And now, Witch's Oven. Another copy of Questing Beast is less than ideal. Now, one nice thing here is that Vivian Arcbow Ranger can come down. You can use the fight ability here. Fight with Questing Beast. It has Death Touch. Take care of Corvold. I think we might see Ichikawa sacrifice the Corvold, yes, to the Witch's Oven, so he will get a food token and draw
2 food tokens.
Actually, yes, 2 food tokens because the dragon is so big. And now it looks like that Pelt Collector is actually going to trade with a Scavenging Ooze, which, if this is happening, I have to imagine we're going to see a Bolus of Citadel this turn? I don't know.
Or all the mana is accounted for, or another copy of Scavenging Ooze. A lot of reasons.
Yep. Okay, fair enough. Questing Beast and Vivian working overtime. Corey's hand is a very flooded with 4 mana spells, but these might be powerful enough and quick enough to get the job done. So Yuki is tapping some manas here. This is another copy of Corvold, Fey, Cursed King. That is a 5/5 as it sacrifices a food token. Nothing to take with a card like Claim the Firstborn right now. That is a forest. This is a Priest of Forgotten Gods. Remember, only 2 copies in the main deck here for Yuki this weekend. So, again, when the format is based around Bant Ramp and Team of Reclamation, Priest of Forgotten Gods doesn't look nearly as good, something that these mono-green aggro decks can actually take advantage of as we head back Corey's way.
Well, also, once you have Scavenging Ooze in the deck, you're a little bit less interested in sort of broad-based sacrifice because you're probably cutting some material that's good at sacrificing for a real card in Scavenging Ooze. So it makes sense to de-emphasize it a little bit. And if you're expecting a lot of control, it's not great there either.
Questing Beast is now a 6/6 trample Death Touch. We know that that's a combo thanks to Vivian, so it can get into the red zone here. And because with how Trample and Death Touch works, you only have to deal a point of lethal damage to each creature. So you can say, you know what, I'll deal 1 to Corvold, 1 to Priest of Forgotten Gods. If there's a double block, the rest comes to you. So Corey's trying to figure out the best way to win this turn, especially in combination with Ram Through and also Ranger's Guile. So with Ram Through, if your creature has Trample, the excess damage goes directly to the opponent. So if Corey were to play Ram Through right now and target Priest of Forgotten Gods, Yuki could sacrifice it. So you don't really want to start there. So it looks like he's going to go to the Great Henge to start. And now this will be a 1/1 from Lovestruck Beast. And now how will Corey play his turn with regards to attacking, assuming he's going to attack at all? Okay, so here's your attack.
I think with another copy of Questing Beast in hand, this is your best spot to kind of cash in.
Yeah, you got to get while the getting's good.
It's not going to get better, and you don't really have a good turn rolled up next turn also. So if you were able to trade and then play another Questing Beast, I think Corey would be very happy with that circumstance.
Now the big question is do you cast Ram Through right now? And if you do, what does it look like? Now he's going to cast a Ram Through. He's going to target the Corvold Fey Cursed King. Yuki's going to obviously sacrifice that to Witch's Oven, draw a card, make 2 food tokens, pass the turn back. Now, what Corey has done a really nice job of this particular turn is he's made it so that Yuki's life total is so low that Bolas' Citadel doesn't look great right now.
On top of that, he's kind of hedged his bets a little bit here. We've been in the spot before where someone has Priest of Forgotten Gods, we lose everything, and there's no catching up. With the Great Hen, she can actually potentially play through it.
Bolas' Citadel, Witch's Oven, down to 3. Let's see, how many permanents we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Permanentes. Looks like at some point we had Yuki Ichikawa on Team of Reclamation. We have changed that for you fine folks at home, so apologies there. Mayhem Devil joins the fray, and that's not going to be good enough. So Corey Baumeister, even with a hand that was not particularly good, a pretty slow start for him. He's up a game here over Yuki Ichikawa and his Jump Sacrifice deck. So you see Corey B here with more copies of Ram through in the sideboard, copies of Gem Razor, Okame Adversary, Shifting Ceratops, a couple copies of Garrick and Heroic Invention. So we're going to see some cards get shifted in and out here. If I'm Corey in this spot, I want to get in my Ram throughs because I have to contain Priest. I don't really like Okame Adversary in this matchup. I think too much has to go right for that to actually work itself onto the battlefield. And, you know, there are spots where Yorvo is good, but most of the spots is going to be pretty bad because you've got Cauldron Familiar just kind of chump blocking around and all that good stuff. So, but also the difference between mine and Corey's list is Corey is really putting a precedent on making the Great Henge a playable card. So he's got to keep some big creatures in there.
But I still think the 3-drops that don't have any sort of immediacy aren't particularly good in the matchup. The bar is so high there because of Claim to Firstborn. Like the exchange on mana, on tempo, is so bad when some of those 3-drops get swiped that unless they're actively good, from my perspective, they're the first things I like to cut.
Vivian, I don't love sideboarding out because you just want as much interaction as possible to ensure that a priest never gets going. So if I'm Corey in this spot, I definitely want to leave in my Vivians. I basically want to leave in as many fight effects as possible.
Well, that also might be a play draw thing too, right? Like the Vivian, you need to have some presence on the battlefield to be able to leverage that. If you think that the spots where you're losing the game are because Ichikawa was able to kill everything, then Vivian might be a little suspect. And that might be different when you're on the play, where you feel a little bit more confident you can get on top of the game.
There'll be a Trail of Crumbs on turn number 2 here for Yuki Ichikawa. Pelk Collector the draw there for Baumeister. Yeah, the reason you're seeing Corey pause here is if I was in Corey's situation, obviously I'm going to be a little more critical of Corey. One, because he's a friend of mine, but also because I've got a lot of experience with Mono Green. Didn't play Stonecoil Serpent on 1, and now you see how it's coming back to bite him, right? Because he has to think about, like, okay, so am I supposed to play a 2-drop this turn? Am I supposed to play something on 1? If he went Stonecoil on 1, like 2-drop on 2, and then he has Gem Razor kind of lined up, it's a minor thing, but instead of having like a Stonecoil and then like a Barkhide Troll, you have a Stonecoil and a Pelk Collector, and that's not nearly as good, right, for how your hand is going to sequence.
Well, the other side of that is a lot of it looks bad because the draw step was Pelk Collector, which Corey obviously doesn't know ahead of time. And the 1/1 Stonecoil Serpent might be just too modest to play into a Gilded Goose. Like, a lot has to go right for that to turn into a real card.
Well, thinking, if you already have Gem Razor in your hand, that's like their ideal combination, because if you Gem Razor your Stonecoil Serpent, it's very hard for them to beat you. Because it's very hard. It's very hard to get off of the battle.
And Baumeister's hand is so tight on mana that just like curve out. I wonder if maybe he was thrown off the scent a little bit by the Castle Garen break and having a dream of castling into the Stonecoil Serpent somewhere down the line.
Yeah, that's a fair question. As things end up, you know, what you're seeing here is a Gem Razor coming down, taking care of a Trailing Crumbs. You're going to get in there for 5 points of damage. And again, these are minor things because, you know, who knows how much experience Corey has with a Mono Green aggro. And hey, he's sitting at 4-0 in this tournament. I'm certainly not. So things are going totally fine. And right now, when you get the combination of Gem Razor plus Stonecoil Serpent, and that protection from multicolor, and, you know, obviously its casting cost is so high that it can't be claimed the Firstborn, but Murderous Rider can take care of it, Swift End will take care of it, Pelk Collector will grow, but now things get a little bit more difficult here for Corey, it looks like.
Yeah, I mean, his leftovers are just some bodies here. We don't really have a sense of Ichikawa's hand right now, but if he's playing towards any of his big plays, what Baumeister has left over is just not very impressive.
Well, I'm not going to sit here and let you talk about Barkai Troll like that. Here it comes. It's a 3-3. And we're going to let that Pelk Collector get in the red zone, baby.
It does have very good numbers in terms of power and toughness relative to its low mana cost, but not every game is about that sort of thing.
Here comes Scavenging Ooze as the follow-up. Not going to grow the Pelk Collector, obviously, but Scavenging Ooze has plenty of relevant text in this matchup. And again, Ichikawa is down to 6. So the idea when you're playing against Yuki's Build of Jund Sacrifice is get that life total low, because you don't want Bolas Citadel, once it arrives, to be able to go off all that much, and 6 is not a ton of life for Yuki Ichikawa to work with. So he's going to start by tapping that Llanowar Visionary for a little green mana, and we're going to see where he goes from there.
Yeah, the thing that Ichikawa could really use right now is just a big creature. Something that could block the entire battlefield. From there, you can start taking over with your better cards. But as you mentioned, yeah, the Bolas Citadel is a little tenuous right now. No guarantee he would be able to get really ahead on the battlefield. His life total is under duress. So Corvault here, very strong play, however.
Well, you wanted a big creature, and you got it, my friend. So there is Corvold. It is a 6/6, and there's room for a whole bunch more. It's just another copy of Pelk Collector here for Corey Baumeister, and he's in some serious trouble now. As you can see, this Corvold is reigning supreme on this battlefield, and now Corey Baumeister might have to consider making some pretty awful attacks solely to try to start getting some damage through and cross the finish line, because if you let Corvold sit there for a turn or two, this game ends almost immediately.
Yeah, I think it's a rock and a hard place, though, because an Alpha Strike here would just be catastrophic. He would make no inroads on life total, would lose his best card, so he might just have to hold tight and hope to engineer a spot with a fight spell. I guess he is going to send in here. It's the best he can do. These creatures aren't going to get any better.
Yeah, I think you have to try. And so what I see Corey doing here is attacking with all the creatures, right? Ichikawa doesn't really have to play around anything. Decklist or public, you don't have to really worry about a card like Giant Growth as an example. But you can make your block there, make a chump block there. And if a 3-power creature does die, at least the Pelk Collector that's left in the battlefield, that's a 2/2, will grow into a 3/3. So you can try to just cross the finish line that way. You got Scavenging Ooze to grow a little bit as well. I mean, it's not pretty, but I mean, what other option do you have? If you wait, I think you're almost certainly going to lose.
Yeah. Spot's not getting better. Even Ichikawa just being able to untap and make some food might push the game out of reach. So doesn't look pretty, but I think it's the best of a bad situation.
So 3 damage gets through. Ichikawa's going to fall down to 3, but I feel like that 3 is temporary, as Patrick did mention about those food tokens. And now you're going to see Corvold gain a counter, draw a card, and now there is Fabled Passage being sacrificed, not the Corvold itself. It'll search up a basic mountain. And we're going to tap that mountain for mana, potentially. Though a quick little undo there from Ichikawa means that he's got something to think about.
Oven's still available as well. If he wants another look at it, can sacrifice a goose for the Visionary.
Yeah. There's a swamp and a mountain. Here's a lava coil. So a timely removal spell here means that the ability for Corey to try to swarm the opponent and go wide just isn't it is certainly lacking, getting more and more difficult. Corvold's now going to attack, sacrifice that mountain, which will trigger the Corvold. Draw a card, put a counter on it. It's a 9/9. Baumeister is down to 12. Is there an ideal draw step? Well, I don't know, because Woe Strider is going to make this even more difficult with more bodies. And I can promise you that third Castle Garenbrig is not what the doctor ordered.
Yeah, I mean, the only way the mono green deck really has to work around spots like this is something involving trample, and Baumeister doesn't have anything.
There's your Castle Garenbrig. Now, the nice thing here, I'm going to use nice pretty loosely right now, is that you do have all of this mana to dump into Scavenging Ooze, but there aren't that many creatures in the graveyard. Maybe there's more than I think.
But without trample, I mean, you have the Woe Strider, Chump Blocker, Gilded Goose. I mean, it's not hard for Ichikawa to manage this stuff for the rest of the game.
Yeah, and for a player of Ishikawa's caliber, it would be shocking to see him maybe make a misstep, or a blunder here. Now, I do not expect that to be the case. Maybe Corey's crossing his fingers and hoping that will occur. But here come the Knuckleheads. Scavenging Ooze is going to get blocked by that Goat token. It looks like Pelk Collector is going to be blocked by Woe Strider. And old Barky looks like it's going to come on in.
They can always click through blocks. You know, you always got that out.
Got to give yourself an out, right? See how Ichikawa does want to respond here. Looks like we're in the old Tankaroo, as far as I can tell. And looks like our replay got a little frozen here. Hey, that's the magic of live television. So we're going to come back to us really quick and see if we can continue on with what looks to be. I think it was a somewhat exciting game, but it feels like it's somewhat decided now, partner. I don't know how you feel about that. I'd be shocked if Ichikawa does lose that game with the advantage that he's generated with Corvold. I mean, it's really just starting to run away.
Very likely that he was attacking for lethal the next turn. So, okay, well, now we'll find out.
I guess we get to find out. It looks like this replay is no longer frozen, but I'll believe it when I see it. And I am seeing it. Looks like I'm getting a Castle Garenberg activation. A little bit choppy here on the replay, so we do apologize for that. All right, it's too choppy. We're going to come back. I don't know if we're going to be able to get to game number 3 there or not. If we do have a result, we'll let you guys know because it is a time shifter match, so we know who won. So if we're not able to go back to that match, then we will just let you know. So there is that. Interesting gameplay and builds of both decks, which are pretty solidified archetypes between both those decks. But you're seeing Ichikawa again putting this huge premium on just being a Bolas's Citadel deck and basically nothing more than that, right?
Yeah, I think the logic there is some amount of when you're actually doing the thing, it fits in just fine, and it's a very powerful secondary plan to have games